Families who've come in search of food and water have found death instead. Ben Brown, BBC News, at the Dadaab refugee camp.
Well, Ian Bray is from Oxfam. He's in our Oxford studio now. Ian, this is obviously potentially catastrophic, as we heard in that report. What can you do now?
Well, we've launched a £50 million appeal so we can reach 3 million people in Somalia, Ethiopia and Kenya. Yes, the situation is extremely desperate. People are facing huge problems, but we still can get aid to people if we act quickly enough. It isn't the 11th hour as such, but it could very, very quickly soon be if we cannot get aid to people, and that's the reason why Oxfam and all the other major UK aid agencies are launching appeals, calling on the British public to be as generous as possible so we can save lives while there is still time.
What is your worst fear then? Because presumably the numbers in this camp in particular could just keep growing and growing and growing.
Well, our worst fears is not enough money is going to come in to fund the aid effort. The World Food Programme, which supplies most of the food that will be helping people, is lacking funds. The two UN appeals, emergency appeals for Somalia and for Kenya, are only funded to about 50%. So really it is lack of funds. There is a great deal of interest in doing something about it, and we were very pleased on Sunday that the UK government gave £38 million to the World Food Programme for its work in Ethiopia. But there also needs to be lots of money given to things like clean water and sanitation.
How difficult is it to operate in this area? How difficult are your logistics as an aid agency?
Well, logistics of getting into these areas is difficult, mainly because of the distance that has to travel. So this is northeast Kenya, it's southeast Ethiopia, far away from the capitals. And in Somalia, just getting to the people who require aid is quite difficult. We work through local partners. We can reach people, but access to these areas are quite difficult because there is a conflict going on there.
I was going to mention the fact that we talked yesterday to the International Development Secretary, and he said, of course, it's the poorest countries that bear the burden. This is in the case of Kenya. They're having to take this incredible burden on themselves. How can you aid them to make that better for them too?
Well, it's also the poorest areas of the poorest countries as well. So what is required is that the international community support the UN appeals, though the government appeals as well, to aid people in those areas. And the British public can be as generous as possible to support the aid agencies.